Hello and welcome to Hearty Divination. I'm going to be talking about love, zodiac signs and love. Most of the time when we hear anything about zodiac signs and relationships, it tends to be about compatibility, which makes sense. I mean, you do want to get along. But what about those signs that have been deemed incompatible? They're going to be my focus for this series of talks. Because at the end of the day, if there's a discordant modality, element or rulership, does that mean the relationship is going to be a failure? I believe that anyone can get along if they really want to. You just have to understand each other. I'm going to talk about the Gemini man with the Virgo woman. And this has been considered incompatible. And it's strange because both signs have the Mercury rulership, and Gemini is a dual personality, and so is Virgo in certain ways, which I'll talk about later. But since they're both ruled by Mercury, Mercury is an archetype that's known all over the world. In Rome is known as Mercury, in Greece, Hermes, in India, Sakini Shakti, and in Egypt, Tahuti, and Arun Mila in West Africa. So it's an archetype that's familiar with many people all across the globe. And what I want to get into is first look at Gemini's traits. As I said, Gemini has this dual personality. On the one side, they can be quite jovial, charming, and approachable, and on the other, they can be quite melancholy and quite harsh with their tongue. Gemini is an air sign, and then we have Virgo. Virgo is an earth sign, but the duality within Virgo is more to do with the Mercury rulership, which gives air, and then their go-to nature, which is the earthly side. And sometimes this comes into conflict, where we have Virgo on the one hand trying to fulfill natural instincts, and then on the other side with the Mercury influence, she's trying to put herself in order. So that's where the two signs are very similar. But we all know that Geminis are known for quick thinking, they're quite an intellectual sign. And this is all to do with the way that Mercury works with Gemini. It moves very fast through air signs, Mercury. But in comparison to Virgo, Mercury moves much slower through earth signs. So that gives an explanation of why the thought process may differ. Because Gemini likes to come up with all sorts of ideas. You know, they're interested in everything and anything. And their minds change from one day to the next. And they'll always be coming up with some sort of solutions to problems and insights to great inventions. Whereas Virgo has a more slower process, which is more methodical. They like to analyze things. They place things into categories and compartments, and they just like the idea of order. But if you're a Virgo woman with a Gemini man, please be prepared for plenty conversation, because the Gemini man is going to come with all sorts of propositions, ideas, and wants you to listen. And where you would play a very positive role for the Gemini man is being able to direct his attention, enable him to have some sort of focus and consistency, because Virgos are very good at turning Gemini's airy ideas into physical manifestation. And Gemini would be a positive influence on Virgo in the sense that he will broaden Virgo's narrow-minded vision. So that's complementary as far as I'm concerned, despite the so-called incompatibility. But as a person, Gemini is very sociable, likes to make networks. He'll have many associates, long list of associates, but not very close friends. He might not know these people personally. Virgo's very similar in the sense that they will also be, they are friendly, but not as gregarious as Gemini. But they'll not waste time with anyone that's of no personal interest to them. And they're not the sort of people that like to confide in others. This is something that happens on a rare occasion. And the few friends Virgo has, they will be held in high regard. And as for Gemini men, especially in their younger years, maybe not so much when they're older, but they have this tendency to flirt. It's part of their way of getting to know people. And another aspect of Gemini is they have much sensual pleasures that they have to gratify, and they do like variety and change. So the women have to be very patient with Gemini men. But as they get older, this will subside, and this will possibly be many platonic friendships with women. But if they won't take it any further, that's the mature type. But this is the sort of behaviour that the Virgo woman's unlikely to tolerate. She'll either give him some sort of reprimand, an ultimatum, or just leave. But Virgo tends to be quite hypocritical. She'll always put the prim and proper persona in front of you, and she'll always like to give the impression that she's this respectable person. But lying underneath all that is this strong libido, and it's very powerful. And this is part of her earthly side of the nature. And many Virgo women have been into pornography secretly and had no qualms with the occasional one-night stand or fleeting affair. But overall, most Virgo women like some sort of consistency, and as they mature, they prefer cosy evenings in with some nice affection. But that's their way of relating in terms of love. But I think with Gemini, because they're the sort of person that have always wanted to make investments or start a new business or of some kind, or they've got lots of creative projects on the go, what the Virgo woman will find that he may want you to contribute. If it's not only ideas, it could be finance as well. And knowing Virgo, she's not prepared to take the risks. She doesn't like taking chances. She'll review Gemini's proposal over and over again, and the answer is likely to be no. Because Virgo likes to spend money carefully, and they also like to put something aside for a rainy day. If the Virgo is not that way inclined, that may be due to some other planetary alignments in the natal chart. But if the Virgo woman has a Sagittarius rising, she may suit the Gemini man more, especially in terms of their need for change and to experience something new. And if the Virgo woman happens to be the outgoing type as a Sagittarius rising, you'll get along very well. You're likely to go around travelling together and exploring the world. And you'll meet on the intellectual capacity too, for that yearning and interest to know more. And the Sagittarius rising Virgo will be open to taking risks and gambling, because they like quick and fast money too. But if the Virgo woman's got an Aquarius rising, then the Gemini man may find some sort of similarity between them in terms of their discussions over inventions or science, or if there's a technical type, they may get along very well. I always think that the laptop was created by Gemini and an Aquarius on Aquarius rising, but because they always like to be on the move. In saying all this, I feel that the Gemini man is not really equipped for domestic life. So many of them marry very later, in their later years, if they do marry at all. They tend to be, their social life means so much to them. Life away from the home base is where the heart is really. So the Virgo woman who's seeking commitment will find this quite annoying, very difficult to handle. But if she does find herself married to a Gemini man, she'll find that she's probably handling the household budget and managing most of the chores in the house, depending on how well trained he is. But that's the case. The only difference would be if that Gemini man has a Cancer moon, then that changes Gemini radically, because there he seeks to love through nurturing and protection. And he'll express this to his significant other in a great deal, and anyone else who's close to him. But the main problem would be that if there's ever an argument or some sort of altercation between the two of you, it would be very difficult to resolve. And this is where the understanding has to come in, which is quite surprising because, both of you are ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is to do with communication, and everyone knows that relationships need communication in order to survive. So we have, say for instance, there's a big argument, the emotions are running high, and Gemini is very unlikely to face his emotions, because they've got this resilience by putting emotions aside. They just can't deal with them. And Virgo is likely to just analyze all emotions away. For her, sometimes dealing with emotions can be very messy business. Her own, that is. But she may be more open to embracing or understanding the emotions of others, but not her own, which is quite paradoxical, but that's how it is. And if if the problem doesn't get addressed, we don't get to the core of the issue, then nothing can be resolved. And I think this is the deal breaker for the Virgo woman and the Gemini man. But then I feel that even this problem could be overcome simply because the both of you are mutable. So your modality is mutable. So that means you're adaptable. So we've got adaptable air and adaptable earth. With two adaptable signs, surely you can come to some sort of middle ground. I feel this is possible. But there are some relationships with Gemini men and Virgo women that really work. In saying all this, as I said before, the relationships that really work between Gemini men and Virgo women, what is the reason for this? Have they overcome their differences? Have they gained such an understanding as what I spoke about before? But for some reason, the Gemini woman and the Virgo man are much more compatible. And we have to look at the reasons for this. Because after all, it's the same signs. Why should it be any different? It's the same combination. But is it the same? Because I feel that the Virgo man and the Virgo's tendency to put things in order, to guide, to instruct, to analyse, to be critical, is often culturally more accepted when expressed by a man towards a woman. A man's less likely to take such instruction lightly, especially a Gemini man. They're going to feel undermined. But the Gemini woman will probably appreciate this sort of supervision from a Virgo husband, because she sees it as a form of care and protection and him trying to look out for her. So all these perceptions are culturally prescribed, and this is why I think it's more likely to work the other way around. But when you look more closely at the energies that are at play here, we come to see that Gemini as a zodiac sign is a positive polarity, so therefore it's masculine. And this expressed by a woman somehow brings that masculinity in balance with the feminine expression of the female gender. Because we all have that masculine and feminine within us regardless. But the Gemini woman will be able to balance out that masculinity with her feminine gender. And the Virgo man, and Virgo has a negative polarity and therefore feminine. This expressed by a Virgo man will be balanced with his masculine gender, the male gender. So that's why I feel those particular dynamics make the Virgo man and Gemini woman much more compatible than the Gemini man and Virgo woman. And I think the reason for this is due to Mercury being a very balanced in polarity. Unlike the Mars, which has a masculine energy, and Venus, which has a feminine, Mercury is androgynous. It has both masculine and feminine principles. And although Virgo expresses their mental processes differently from Gemini, this is because the Virgo sign uses Mercury in a more linear sort of fashion, very straight and narrow, looks at things in as separate parts. And Gemini uses Mercury in terms of thought processes in a more dynamic way. That's why they are great taskers, and they can do several things at once, and their thought processes are much more fluid and flexible. And that's like they look at things as wholes, connecting all the dots and looking at things from a holistic perspective. And that's more feminine in nature. So I found this quite intriguing myself. What are your thoughts? Do you know of any couples that have incompatible zodiac signs? I'm sure you do. And I'm sure there's some that you can think of that work quite fine. I'd like to know your thoughts on this. Please leave your comments. I'd be glad to read them. And next time I'm going to talk about Leo and Cancer. Not quite sure which one's going to be the man or woman as yet. We'll have to wait and see. So it's been great talking to you, and I'll see you again.